but said we could get started. So, Leroy, I guess I'll just turn it over to you, if you don't mind.
Okay. The November 14th meeting of the Budget Coordination Meeting will come to order at 12:14 p.m. I believe what we had on the agenda was a discussion of the policies, and I would suggest that we start with financial reserves. Uh, it looks like most of the comments were incorporated. Winston, there were some broader comments that you had. Did you have a chance to look to see whether uh, those were addressed, or we could go one by one?
I think those were, and we went through those in a separate call before this committee had been convened. So I think
Okay.
some of those were about format. So I think we can move to the comments ahead of time.
I will note that Jay had sent and had planned to send me some comments. I have not received anything from Jay. He sent an email with some thoughts, and then we were gonna convene and chat. We have not done that yet. So he's the other member who had mentioned having some comments, but I haven't received those, so those aren't reflected in the policy either. And then I should have just noted that we are joined by Rob Milt, who is the newest member of the committee, was appointed by the school committee a few weeks ago, so that is Rob.
Welcome, Rob.
And I'll pull up the document right now, just.
I had some comments too, I
Yeah.
don't think
I just meant in terms of what was inserted into the document.
So, did Jay have comments or thoughts?
He had sent me an idea on how to handle free cash directly with explicit requirements on how the free cash would be spent upon certification.
Yeah.
So this doesn't incorporate any of those into this at all.
And because this is a policy, I would not expect that it would have very specific instructions about how we might handle free cash in any given year, but rather it's supposed to provide guidelines and in some cases guardrails for what we will do and what we won't do from a policy standpoint with regard to free cash. So I think we could look at those, although I'm hopeful that, remember we set, Winston and Megan asked us to set kind of the end of this month for finalization so that the select board could adopt this policy before the end of the year. So I think we really need to close out the comment period as soon as we can.
Was there a reason, what was Jay's rationale for the specifications on the free cash that he laid out?
I think he was, his other comments alluded to it too, and having more detailed guardrails on how things would be done rather and inserting more structure and less flexibility. I don't want to put words into his mouth, but I think it was kind of articulating more clearly what will happen on a year-by-year basis.
I do think that the comments that Jay shared in person, and I do remember us leaving it at one point saying that some of the issues that Jay was talking about may be in a longer conversation and may not be material to what we're doing here on this draft reserve policy.
Right.
Free cash handling. So I think we can address Brian's comments. I think Brian's comments led a little bit more into our actual reserves policies, and then Jay's maybe something that we can come back to if we're able to get this document finalized. Well, hopefully get it finalized.
Right. Good. Brian?
Yes. You want me to get into them?
I do.
Yeah, so if you want to talk on the reserves, I had, basically I just added comments, the same comment for water, stormwater, and PEG, but I think just surpluses in excess of the targeted reserve should be used to reduce subscriber fees. And I don't know if that's already the policy, or if that's could be written in, but at some point, if you collect all the money and you have a decent reserve in there, which you do have a decent reserve, if you just reduce the fees, that's all, instead of increasing 2.5% a year.
So, Brian, do you think that you want to leave the select board and the town administrator a little room for discretion in any given year? If you write that into a policy, then you're constraining any discretion that they might have. But maybe that's your objective.
Well, I would say it is. I mean, this is net of any capital improvements. Like if you have capital improvements you need to do or changes, then that would go as part of the budget.
Yeah.
This would be net of anything else. I think it's just not, I don't actually even know how the enterprise funds work. But do they go up 2.5% a year, just like property taxes?
The enterprise funds are totally separate and apart, so they don't have any limitations like we do on the tax
They
levy.
could theoretically go
They could
up,
go up
they could go
20%, they could go down 20%. There
Yeah.
is no maximum minimum on the enterprise funds side of things. In terms of what our practice has been to draw those reserves down for capital to provide some rate stabilization when we feel like the balance has gotten high enough. So we are moving in that direction, have been doing that the past couple of years. So the way I had written, or this may even been DOR's language, which says that the reserves will be used to provide rate stabilization and to fund capital projects and equipment. So, rate stabilization meaning keeping rates down when you can by utilizing the reserves. So last year's budget includes a use of some of the reserves on the water side to provide a reduced water rate, but it doesn't require it. Whereas I think the language you're inserting here would require that to be the case. Right. And I think our view would be use it not so much incrementally, but carefully so that we don't spend down all the reserves one year to reduce the rates, and now the rates have to shoot up because the expenses have jumped up, and now we
Right.
don't have less flexibility to manage that. So I think we're on this, in a similar direction. I just would want to understand if you're looking for it to be a requirement or
You still have reserve funds, all these funds.
it's the retained earnings is the entire reserves for the enterprise fund.
So I guess, I am saying that, like make it firm, I guess. What are your thoughts?
Nick, read your language again.
Sure, I'll scroll down to it as well. So it's this highlighted language here. The reserves will be used to provide rate stabilization and to fund capital projects and equipment.
So, Brian, what do you think about the reserves may be used to provide rate stabilization, rate reduction, and or to fund capital projects and equipment?
I think that sounds good. I'm good with
But
that.
Nick, rate stabilization is not rate reduction. So Brian's talking also about potential reduction. So I would say rate stabilization, rate reduction, and or to fund capital projects and equipment.
I would agree with that. I think that's a good change.
Thank you. And I guess the same for the stormwater, it would be, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. I think rate stabilization is the intent.
For PEG, we didn't have language, so I actually like, with that change that we just discussed included, I like Brian's language here.
The issue here, and my comment addresses that, is that PEG, it's not a fee that we assess. We negotiate with the cable companies to secure payments through PEG. But it's not like in any year we would be able to offset or reduce any fees. We've set it up as an enterprise fund, but it's not a traditional enterprise fund in the sense of water, sewer, stormwater. So I really don't necessarily view it as necessarily should be even in this policy, but I wanted to capture the fact that we had it. So I was planning to insert a description of how PEG worked, and then rather than assigning any requirements on it. There is an important conversation to be had in terms of PEG more generally, because as folks cut cords, reduce their subscriptions, our revenue will decline. So there's a bigger picture conversation to be had here, but it wouldn't, there's no way for us to kind of utilize the reserves to offset fees or anything else. The money goes to Milton Access TV. For the most
Okay.
part.
So in that case, now I understand why would we include it in the reserves policy at all?
Yeah, I'm happy to remove it. I was just kind of struggling with whether to have it in there or not. Because if somebody asks, hey, what are your enterprise funds? We have 4, but the policy only describes 3. So
well, we might have a separate policy altogether that provides this information about PEG, but you're saying that it doesn't generate a reserve, and therefore, as Brian has suggested, we wouldn't be able to reduce fees. So why have it in a reserves policy where that's what we're talking about?
yeah, I don't disagree. I'm okay with that.
Taking it out completely.
Yeah.
There is a chunk of money in there, right? Isn't there like 200,000?
Yes, so
It's gonna get dwindled down.
we have an agreement with MPEG Access Inc., which is the
Yeah.
entity that oversees Milton Access TV, to give them most but not all of the annual payments we receive. So it is building, it has a fund that builds up over time. The issue that we face, like I mentioned, is
That's
all of that is
people-
declining slowly.
Right, and it's a contractual agreement. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay, I'm okay with it coming out, but.
Okay.
Great.
So then where would this then be reflected if we take it out of the reserves policy? Where would we then reflect it?
You could have a separate PEG Access Enterprise Fund policy, which, as Nick is describing it, would sounds like it would only describe what happens, but at least we'd have a record. But it clearly doesn't generate reserves and therefore doesn't fit in a reserves policy.
Do we have a separate enterprise funds policy document?
We, not at this time, we don't know.
Should we put that out at a later date?
Where, Megan, where we would simply describe each enterprise
All
fund?
the enterprise funds, yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Something we can look at.
So
Give more writing assignments.
So similarly, Nick, so this enterprise fund policy would simply describe the enterprise funds, and this policy describes for those that actually generate reserves how we would address those reserves. So the enterprise fund policy would simply be descriptive.
Sure.
Great.
Okay. And I think Brian had 2 more comments towards the end, which I'll scroll down to.
Each fiscal year following certification of free cash, the divisions of local services, the town administrator shall prepare a reserve compliance report comparing actual reserve balances to the policy targets established herein. The report shall include year-over-year trends. and recommendations for replenishment or reallocation to maintain compliance. The report shall be presented to the select board and warrant committee. If you use free cash, if you use money from the reserves to pay for operating expenses for the town, do you have to replenish that? You have to, right?
Under
Free
this
cash?
policy, if we use money from the general stabilization fund, there is a requirement that there's a plan to replenish it within 2 fiscal years. If the free cash section of the policy says it shall not be used for recurring operating budgets, I
Okay.
think is what the language is.
All right. You don't, right.
And in terms of a compliance report, this is something Megan had mentioned. I think another community you had seen did like a one pager that said which policies they were in compliance with, the amounts that they were in
Yes.
compliance with.
Yep.
So I've put together an initial take on that and I put it in the shared folder. So it goes through kind of each segment of this and says,
Your old community does it.
yes, yeah, right. So what I did was I took a report showing in recent
He
years,
doesn't like tout his accomplishments or good
And,
ideas.
and I'll just
And
share
and
it here.
he should, Megan. I've been saying this, and I've said it privately to Nick. The amount of research, preparation, and actual work that's represented in this shared file is pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
No, but if you look at what's your old town? Was it Millis? No. Where'd you come from? Medfield, sorry.
Yeah.
All the
Where'd you-
M
where'd you
towns.
come? Where'd you
I
come
get,
from,
listen,
Nick?
there's 351 towns, okay? And I mess up the ones, I mess up the ones with the same
M's.
M's,
Same.
right? The only one I can keep straight is Milton. But if you look at Medfield's budget documents, they're really good. And I think that it's something we need to aspire to in our town. And I think Nick is on his way to doing
Yeah.
it, but they have a really great scorecard with compliance or progress toward achieving what is set out in their financial documents or in the reserves policies.
So, Brian, would this kind of format satisfy what you're suggesting?
What's on the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what this does is it gives you the value of each of the funds. Yes, sir.
I mean, I think I see it, the intent. I know the names, but- Yeah, I would think so. That would be great.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah. It would be.
I think so. Yeah.
And so we did the same for retained earnings. This is the enterprise funds. So it tells you, meets policy, surplus deficit, meets policy, the amount that it does or doesn't. And then free cash, again, these are just the policy drafts based on, so again, just is trying to pull it all in so you can look at it quickly and understand if we're meeting it, by how much, if we're not meeting it, how much work do we have to do? And then I do have drafts of debt management and capital planning. So
Great.
I think that addresses it, and I appreciate the comments, but Amy and Joanna do a lot of the work. I'm just the one who
Yes, of
gets
course.
the attention sometimes.
course.
Thank you.
I'm very impressed, Nick, at all that you have your fingers in and that you have a handle on, always.
So I think that addresses that comment and maybe what we can do. So all I did was allude to it in the policy that it's attached, but it may make sense to roll that in as a more explicit statement that it's something we'll do on an annual basis.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Because it's just listed as an attachment.
And the last thing I had, policy reviews. Did we just do that? Oh, just reviewing the policy, just saying on a regular basis.
So I should point out that one of the changes I suggested at the very top, where we say financial reserves, who it applies to, scope, and date, that I struck warrant committee and included school committee. School committee because only because of the operating budget stabilization fund, which may include some school expenses and therefore or school needs and therefore some withdrawals from that fund. But the policymakers the authority for policymaking rests with the select board and the school committee, not the warrant committee. So I would probably suggest that we continue, for consistency, that we continue that approach with whatever we say about policy review. And I did say in the free cash area, upon advice from the warrant committee, the town administrator, and so on. But I just wanted to be clear about who has authority and who has final decision-making authority. So similarly with the policy review cycle, I would say the select board shall jointly review the policy. That doesn't mean that the warrant committee can't and should weigh in, but it does mean that I just want to be clear about who, in the final analysis, who takes the feedback and decides what to do and what not to do.
Who used the select board, right?
It's the select board, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Right.
Hello, Jay. Jay has his hand up.
I guess maybe I'm splitting hairs about who makes a policy and who doesn't. It's fine for the select board to make a policy, but when it comes to any given year, making the actual budget is going to be the warrant committee, well, it's going to be the town administrator and then going through the warrant committee, not the select board. So.
Well, so this was the significant change that occurred when our home rule petition to create a strong town administrator was passed. And the significant change was, and this was an observation that DOR, through its Division of Local Services, made it. It said that you need to move away from the model where the warrant committee is actually preparing the budget and toward a model where a strong town administrator is preparing the budget and recommending it to the warrant committee and to the select board. But the approval authority is not with the warrant committee. It's with, and nor is the responsibility for budget preparation. It's with the town administrator and the select board. That doesn't mean that the warrant committee's observations, comments, recommendations aren't given considerable weight, but it does mean that they as part of this strong administrator process, they are not responsible for the preparation of the budget anymore.
You said the approval of what?
The budget.
This policy of a budget.
The budget.
The policy.
Well,
the town budget.
No, I mean, the town budget is approved by town meeting, and the budget that is presented to town meeting is the warrant committee's budget.
No. It's the town's budget, which is approved by which is recommended by the town administrator and approved by the select board.
That is news to me. I thought that the Massachusetts law said it's the finance committee's. I mean, we're splitting hairs here, I guess, but I guess I'm just thinking that there's, we're splitting hairs.
Yeah,
but
I don't think there's anywhere in the Mass General laws that says that a town finance committee is the approver of the town's budget and therefore the entity that recommends it to town meeting. I don't think that appears anywhere.
Well, it's printed in our warrant. Every article says that's the warrant committee's recommendation.
That's correct. It's advice. It's informed and intelligent advice. So the town meeting can decide based on the detailed advice from the warrant committee whether they should accept the recommendation or not.
Stepping back a second, when you said like what the Department of Revenue recommended to us, I've read at least parts of that recommendation.
Mm-hmm.
And what I took from that is that the warrant committee should not be spending time going into individual departments' budgets, but spend more time big picture things. And when I think big picture things, I think things like this. I think the warrant committee should have more of a say in what do we do with our reserves and less of a say in how much money is the library going to spend on printer paper this year.
Absolutely agree.
So I see this as, what should be one of our main roles.
Right, and we agree on that. It's just that the point I'm trying to make is simply when you have a policy, it needs to be clear who makes the final decision as to whether to approve the policy, whether to change the policy. There can be numerous inputs, but in this case, as I said, I believe the statutory authority lies with the select board and uh, on a limited basis with the school committee.
Do we need to get like a clarification on this offline with like town council or something?
Well, sure.
I also think,
But for purposes of this discussion, I mean, these would be the select board's policies and,
Yeah.
you know, obviously, like we want everybody involved in shaping them,
Absolutely.
bought in, yeah.
and I think we would want the warrant committee, in an ideal scenario, to also vote to agree or adopt or adhere to them. But I agree, it's a bit of a, if push comes to shove and we have two boards and committees that don't necessarily agree on everything, ultimately,
Well,
it's the select board's policy.
Right.
The select board would be seeking warrant committee's agreement and adherence.
Right.
I assume, does it get voted on by, these don't get voted on by town meeting though, right?
No. Not necessarily.
Nope.
Right, they wouldn't, yeah, that makes. I think, yeah. I don't know if you need town council's approval, but they're just, I wouldn't say they're just policies, but they're policies that I think you can be flexible with. Things will change, you know?
So the point for what we're saying now is just the removal of warrant committee to add school committee to this language, right?
Right. And the reason that that's important is if you say that these are the entities that have to adopt this policy, if they don't adopt the policy for some reason, then technically you couldn't implement it. So that's why we have to be clear about where that approval authority lies.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't know if we need town council to necessarily tell us where this is. I don't think this takes the warrant committee out of the budget discussion.
Yeah,
It doesn't by any means.
These are the
no.
bodies that would handle the approval.
Can I also just say, like, it sounds to me just like we're talking about like a difference between like the warrant committees kind of like operationalizing the final budget recommendation and sign off, and it's, you know, the select board is like a policy making body.
Yes. And as I said, because the warrant committee's review and recommendations would be and should be given considerable weight, the select board might not adopt a policy or might not adopt a budget if the warrant committee has significant concerns.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I have to leave. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, Brian.
Luck.
Brian, before you go, is there any part of your comments that we haven't addressed that you'd like to get to before you go, or you feel good?
I think you did them all, right?
All
Yeah,
right.
you, thank you. I appreciate you talking about them. Thanks.
Thanks, Brian.
I think you guys did a good job on this too.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Yes.
I'm actually gonna step out as well. I have a meeting at 1, but I like Brian. I trust you all to take it from here. That's all right. Are we still good at quorum if I step out?
Do it.
Yes, but give me 1 second.
All right.
Nick, was there any other substance? The place where we made a number of changes was free cash. Winston, did you take a look at that?
On this, yeah, I think all of my comments were in. So I think if I had any questions, they've been answered or they've been put in addressed.
And you saw the additional edits that I made?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I think other than that, I didn't see any. Oh, there was one other comment. And Nick, one of Winston's comments was, is there a better word to use than generate? The town's goal should be to generate free cash. Did we look for a synonym?
Not yet. I think I agree.
Produce.
Achieve, anything, generate. I agreed with Winston's comment.
To prior year. Or what about retain between 2% and 4% of the town's prior year operating budget and free cash? No?
Well,
Because wouldn't you generate a current year's operating budget?
I think if it's retained, then it should be retain a minimum of 2 and a maximum of 4.
Okay.
Get that. Nick, is that the intent here?
Well, I think 2 pieces. I think we were a little concerned about the 2% to 4% number, and I talked about reducing that to like 1% to 3%, especially with the increase in the budget due to the override. So I think the percentages we had talked about drop into 1% to 3%. And then I agree, I don't love the phrasing, and I'm trying to think of a better way to put it.
Yeah, I'm okay with the reducing from 1 to 3.
yeah,
Others are.
yes.
Can I ask how do we generate or whatever?
Right.
How do we get this money? Because we were talking about in our last meeting, it's always supposed to be, we assume 0 and it's a happy accident if anything goes wrong.
Exactly. And we don't have, this suggests that we have complete control, and we don't. Some of these things happen. In other cases, a department might underspend, but it also seems counterintuitive to me to approve a budget at the beginning of the year and then say to a department head, but we don't want you to spend all of the budget that we approved for you so that we can end up with free cash. I don't think we're doing that, but generate sounds a little bit like oversight in a way that's not helpful. Realize, achieve,
Retain. I guess I'm wondering, how exactly do we do it? Is it that we know position X is currently not filled and we build it assuming that there will be at least some number of months next year that it's still going to be not filled? I sort of know in the real world how we do it. We just budget cautiously on everything.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what I think maybe that's what this is saying, Jay. I think Nick's been clear in that we are currently in a space where we budget pretty conservatively. So that 1% to 3% keeps us in that space of that like conservative mindset. So if the thought is that we're trying to 1% to 3% in free cash, then that impacts how conservatively we budget.
So how about if we say, that's good. That's good, Nick. Why don't we say it is the town's goal, that it is the town's free cash goal that between 1% and 3% of the town's prior year operating budget be certified as free cash. So that's what we want to happen. That's what we're saying, as opposed to suggesting that we're going to do any particular action or activity, or not do any particular action or activity to make it happen. It is the town's goal that between 1% and 3% of the town's prior operating budget be certified as free cash. Okay, I like that better. Megan?
I do too.
Winston?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Jay?
I like the wording. I'm still thinking about what it means, but I like the wording.
Okay, good. All right.
Jay, I don't know if you were here at the beginning, but we did say your discussion on free cash and those reserve and those policies were something we felt that could be handled after these are finalized to really dig into those other pieces.
I think I agree. I think what we're looking at now could be wrapped up in a week or a month, and what I'm thinking of will take more like a year. So I
Right.
agree.
Right.
All right, I'm gonna
Okay. I think I just wanted you to see that
Yeah.
section, Winston. So I think we're good, Nick. What do you think?
I agree. The other thing I just wanted to push on, or not push on, but just kind of flag, and maybe this still requires a little bit of a longer conversation, is the operating budget stabilization fund.
Yeah.
So where it stands now is that we just plug this percentage. So no more than 2% of the general fund operating budget shall be supported by appropriations from the operating budget stabilization fund in a given year. So if our budget right now is about 150 million, that would be what's the percentage of that? So
3 million?
2 million. Yeah, somewhere between 2 and 3 million on an annual basis, which may be a little high.
Oh, I was thinking you're going to say it was too low.
I mean, it's a maximum limit, so I think our goal obviously would be to be below that. But I just wanted to, because I felt like this is a new fund, and I just wanted to make sure that there was an understanding of how we were setting the limitations on it.
I believe in your projection, at least the most recent projection I have from Nick and Amy, it's withdrawing $2.1 million in FY29.
Correct.
So it's not too high. Well, it's not too high for that forecast. Maybe that forecast is not what we want, but.
Right.
Yeah, and this, so I have some thoughts about this that also fall under the same category as Jay's comments. I think if we're simply finalizing or reinforcing the status quo, then I don't believe this fund will be properly used. That is, if you have a school budget that's growing at a rate of 9%, the base budget is growing at a rate of 9%, and we simply say, okay, so that's the level we're going to fund each year if we need to out of the operating budget stabilization fund, I think that's a mistake. That we've got to do something about controlling the rate of growth. But I don't think that belongs in the language of the policy, but I think as policymakers, I would urge the select board and the warrant committee to pay close attention to, and obviously Mark's not with us, but the school's finance committee, to pay close attention as to what they're doing and what their strategies are for managing that rate of growth.
Yeah, can I, so I mean, I know I've been pushing to get these more concrete, not less, but I think the 2%, if we're going to sign these, not me, obviously, then I don't want to see that 2% there. Maybe the correct number is 2.5%, maybe 3%. We don't really know how the money's going to flow. I don't know if we can put a hard number there. And I apologize, I'm playing catch up. I don't know what's up with the next paragraph. The select board puts money in there?
This is more of a procedural thing. So the $700,000 that's recurring, each year the select board is required to say whether they're gonna do the $700,000
Yeah.
Oh.
or not. So it's more of a process.
In the same way that they approve taxes. Well,
Yes.
but what about, we at least might put free cash in there. That's an appropriation into the operating budget stabilization fund. We did it last year.
I think Nick, is that the language from the article?
This may be superfluous. This is truly saying, so the recurring amount, which is $700,000, the select board does not take any action on it in like the spring each year. That goes away, and it goes away forever. So
Right.
there is an action item that the select board has to take up each year, which is, do we want to continue putting $700,000 from the tax levy plus 2.5% up to into this fund or not? So I just put this in there as kind of like a reminder as to what the process is. If the board says, yeah, let's do that, let's increase it by 2.5%, and also we should recommend $1 million of free cash goes into it, that's like it's a separate issue. They're required by law to take an action in the spring every year.
Okay. But
Well, so the action is actually to vote on whether to make an appropriation or not, right?
Right. I think all of that's included in that language, right? Just appropriation, whatever it is.
Right. It's not a vote. It may be a vote on an appropriation, or it may be a vote not to make an appropriation, right, Nick?
Yep, correct.
So we should be clear on that.
I guess I'm getting hung up on any appropriation would include that $700,000 and may or may not include free cash, for example. And going all the way to town meeting's floor could put free cash into this, which if that's okay with you, if it's okay with you, if the select board doesn't vote for that, but then town meeting does, if that's okay with this language, that's fine, but it seems a little confusing because
It's honestly probably superfluous. I could probably strike
Okay.
it if it's creating some confusion. So it may be cleaner
Okay.
to strike it because it might be injecting a little bit more confusion than is
Okay.
necessary.
Well, what's the confusion? I don't know if I want to strike that. What's the confusion? It may be redundant. But
my confusion is it says appropriations. In my imagination, the appropriations will be the 700,000 from the tax levy plus, and then plus some amount from free cash, perhaps. So that's the appropriation into the operating budget stabilization fund.
Okay, so so what's missing in the language right now that would?
Well, okay, you vote on it. You might vote on it with free cash, without free cash. I don't know. Let's say you vote on it without free cash. The town meeting still has the authority to take money from free cash and put it in this fund. So you voted on the appropriation, but town meeting is doing it. Town meeting is the one that would appropriate the free cash into this, not the select board. That's the confusion. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker, but you asked what the confusion was, and that's a confusion.
No, I understand.
Sorry, I think this language might clarify what the select board's obligation is to do each year.
Great. And I know Winston has to drop by 1, and it's practically 1. I think what Leroy said is right on the nose, which is we need to do something other than every year look at, oh, are we short on the budget? Okay, let's take it out of this fund. Pretty much anything other than that.
Right. But so that I think we're close to the end here. Jay, are you comfortable with this redraft that Nick just did?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Winston, I think you're free to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Are we done?
I don't know. Are we done,
I
Megan?
think we are.
Okay.
Can I ask, is Rob a new member of the committee?
Rob is the
Yes.
school board, yep.
Excellent.
Glad
to have you.
Representative, right?
That's me. Glad to be here.
Cool. Yeah, and the only other thing I would have said, when I can take this up with Mr. Milano directly, is, I've been trying to push vague policies. What are we going to do with the free cash? So I guess a more concrete question is, what are we going to do with free cash this year? We've got $4.5 million.
Right.
What are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
That's. I wanted to start with the vague overarching policies, but that's another question, and not a
Yes.
question to be answered now. Just a question to be thrown out into the atmosphere now.
Yeah.
So just quickly, Jay, I'm going to send you, Mark, Megan, Winston, Nick, Amy, an email asking you to throw out some dates. We had talked about kind of a small scale summit and a large scale summit. So the small scale summit was the warrant committee, the schools subcommittee, budget subcommittee, finance subcommittee, the select board finance subcommittee, and the budget coordination committee. We're going to meet sometime this month or early next month to talk about budget parameters and objectives. And then in January, the warrant committee, the school committee, and the select board were going to hold a summit. I assume to finalize the budget. But so in both cases, I think we're talking a little bit about revenue and expense forecast. But I think those are really two important meetings. And I'm just going to try to get you guys to throw out some dates so we can get them on the schedule.
Okay, we talking evening meetings?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
It's got to be actually.
Yeah.
We've gotta, yeah, it's not gonna work to do a morning meeting for this.
Yeah, right. Okay.
All right.
More coming.
Well, thank you, everyone. So
Thank You don't have a
Do
quorum,
we-
so.
oh yeah, we don't have to take a meeting to a motion or anything? Okay.
Yep, no, you don't have a quorum at the moment.
All right. Okay, so I guess we can wrap for today.
Yeah, we can adjourn. We don't need a quorum to adjourn. It's 1:02.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Well, thanks.